It was just a couple of weeks before my wedding, and everything felt like it was finally falling into place. Megan, my fiancée, was handling her side of things like a pro. Seriously, the woman was born to plan. I had my own thing going with the business, which was taking off. I was happy. More than that, I felt solid. The kind of solid you get after years of being torn apart and then putting yourself back together. I wasn't the same guy I used to be, but I was okay with that. Megan and I were planning a future, and it looked damn good. 6 years ago, though, I was a different guy entirely. Back then, I was engaged to Chelsea. I had everything planned. We were set to get married the next day, in fact. But I walked in on them, the last place I expected to see Marcus, my stepbrother, in our condo. And Chelsea, they were in bed together. I'd never seen her look at me the way she looked at him. Like I was nothing. Like we'd never been anything. And she told me flat out. She never wanted to marry me. Marcus was who she loved all along. That night, I walked away from both of them. From everything I thought I knew. I moved cities, started fresh, and rebuilt. No contact. No nothing. And then, out of nowhere, Chelsea messaged me. "Neil, I need to see you one last time. Everything isn't what you think it was." I showed the message to Megan. I expected her to get upset, to have questions, to maybe even tell me not to go. Instead, she just looked at it, took a slow breath and said, "If you need to see her, then do it, but don't go in unprepared. No secrets. No closed doors." I nodded. She wasn't worried about what might happen between Chelsea and me. She was worried about the truth. And that's why I loved her. "Close the door properly, or leave it locked," Megan added with a smirk that barely touched her lips. I agreed, and then I messaged Chelsea, "Tomorrow, 6:30, Tonic Lounge, downtown. Come alone." Megan didn't hesitate when she said she'd come with me, not for drama, but to make it clear. This was our life now. Megan and I got there early, the place practically empty, save for a couple of waitstaff setting up. She was sharp, focused, untouchable. Like she had everything in the world figured out. And she did. Standing next to her, I felt like the guy who'd put the pieces back together. But now I was whole. I was ready for whatever this would be. I wasn't the same guy who'd crumbled under Chelsea's betrayal. I wasn't even the same guy from yesterday. I was stronger. And Megan? She wasn't going anywhere. We sat at the table with my business partners, making small talk while we waited. The door jingled as it opened, and there she was, Chelsea. She didn't look like the woman I remembered. She looked older, worn down. The confident, polished woman I'd once known was nowhere to be seen. She stood in the doorway for a second, like she wasn't sure if she belonged there. Her eyes flicked over to Megan and my partners, and I saw her shoulders tighten. When she caught sight of Megan, her face shifted, fear, guilt, regret, all in one. She flinched like Megan might physically hurt her. "Neil," she said, voice shaky, still trying to hold on to that old, smooth tone she used to get what she wanted. I need to speak to you privately." I didn't even blink. "Whatever you have to say it now," I said, leaning back in my chair. My voice didn't waver, and I could see it hit her like a slap. She didn't expect that. She wanted control. She wanted the quiet, intimate setting to spill her guilt and pretend it would fix everything. But it was too late for that. Her eyes flicked around, then back to me. She hesitated, clearly searching for the right words to pull me back into her orbit, to try to make me believe that it wasn't all her fault. I was done with her games. I could feel the weight of Megan's gaze on me, and it steadied me. She didn't need me to take care of her anymore. She had my back in ways I couldn't have asked for. Chelsea's hands were trembling as she sat down, but she still tried to put on some kind of front. Her voice caught when she started speaking, and I knew right then she wasn't prepared for this conversation. "Neil, it wasn't what you think," she started, like it was just going to be some easy explanation, like I'd just believe her words after everything. I cut her off, not even letting her finish. "Don't insult me with that 'it just happened' excuse." My words were sharp, cutting through her like a knife. It wasn't going to be that easy. It never was. Her face crumpled, and for a second, I thought she might actually start crying. But she pushed it down, probably trying to hold on to whatever dignity she thought she had left. "It wasn't like that," she said, eyes down, looking anywhere but at me. "It had been going on for months before the wedding." I didn't blink. "So, you were planning on marrying me while you were already with him?" The words came out cold, but they were laced with disgust. Every time I thought about that night, it made my stomach twist. How could she have done that? She bit her lip, clearly trying to collect herself, but it was a lost cause. "Marcus led me on," she continued, her voice quieter now, almost pleading. "He promised me things, and when it all blew up, he was gone. I lost everything. My job, my friends, my family. I wasn't sure if I was supposed to feel bad for her. Maybe I should, but I didn't." "Why tell me now?" I asked. The question hung between us, heavier than I expected. I need to apologize," she said, the words faltering. "I want to clear the air." Megan's voice was steady, sharp as glass, cutting through the moment. "You want absolution. That's not happening here," she said, leaning forward slightly, making sure Chelsea knew exactly where she stood. I didn't hate Chelsea. I didn't even feel angry. I was numb to it. I just didn't care. "I don't hate you," I said to Chelsea, and for a second, I thought she might think I was softening, but I wasn't. "I just don't care anymore." Chelsea looked like she might say something else, but she hesitated. There was nothing left for her to say. She'd had her chance to make it right, and she'd blown it. The woman I thought I knew, my ex-fiancé, was gone. All that was left was a shadow. And that shadow didn't have a place in my life anymore. Not with Megan here by my side. Not with the future we were building. Megan's hand brushed mine, and I squeezed it. Whatever this was, it was over. We closed the door, and we were done looking back. Chelsea sat there, already tearing up, like she thought I was still the guy she could manipulate. Like she still had some kind of power over me. I wasn't having it. "It wasn't what you think," she started, voice shaky. The same line she always used whenever things went sideways. She always wanted to rewrite the story. I didn't let her finish. "Don't insult me with that. It just happened" excuse. I cut in, my tone flat, almost bored. I wasn't angry anymore, just done. I was tired of hearing the same tired lines she'd fed me when she walked out of my life. Chelsea blinked, her face going pale. I could see the guilt twist her insides as she fumbled for the words. "It wasn't like that," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "I didn't mean for it to happen. It started before the wedding. Before any of it." I stared at her. I didn't need her to explain. I already knew. But I wasn't going to make it easy for her. "You were already sleeping with my stepbrother while we were planning our wedding," I said, the words coming out like a punch. "Don't pretend like this was some accident. Don't even try to say you didn't know what you were doing." She winced at my words, but I could see she was still trying to find a way to make it sound like her actions were justified, like she was the victim in all this. "It wasn't like that," she repeated. But this time, I saw her crack. "Marcus led me on. He made me think he loved me. He told me he wanted to be with me after everything. And then when it all blew up, he walked away. I lost everything. My job, my friends. I'm alone, Neil." She looked like she was waiting for sympathy, maybe even hoping I'd soften. But I wasn't that guy anymore. I wasn't the guy who was going to listen to her sob story and feel sorry for her. "Sounds like a real mess," I said, keeping my voice steady. "But that's your mess. You made it. I'm not cleaning it up for you." Chelsea's eyes darted to the table, like she was trying to find something to ground her. Her hands were clenched on her lap, and I saw her bite down on her lip, trying to hold herself together. "I've been in therapy," she said, her voice quieter now, like she was admitting something she wasn't proud of. "I'm trying to understand why I did what I did. Why I destroyed everything." I was about to say something, but Megan beat me to it. "You want absolution. That's not happening here," she said, her voice calm but unwavering. It was the first time Chelsea looked up, really looked at Megan, and the weight of those words seemed to hit her harder than anything I could have said. Megan didn't need to add anything more. She was right. Chelsea didn't want forgiveness. She wanted to feel better about what she'd done. She wanted to clear her conscience, but I wasn't giving her that. Not after everything. I turned back to Chelsea, my voice cold. "I don't hate you," I said, watching her face flicker with hope. Like maybe this was the moment I'd let her back in. But I wasn't going to do that. I wasn't going to let her believe she could still worm her way into my life. "I just don't care anymore." The words hung in the air. Chelsea looked like she was choking on them, her eyes welling up with tears. She wanted me to care, to give a damn about all her regret and apologies. But the truth was, I didn't feel anything for her anymore. Not the way I used to. The love, the trust, all of it had died that night. Chelsea opened her mouth like she was going to say something, but nothing came out. She was at a loss for words, and it didn't matter. She couldn't take back what she'd done. She couldn't fix what she broke. I stood up, the finality of the movement cutting the conversation short. "You've got nothing left to say, Chelsea," I said, my voice firm. "It's over. Whatever you think you're owed, you're not getting it." She didn't try to stop me as I turned away. I could hear her sniffling behind me, but I didn't care. I was done with this. Done with her. Megan stood with me, slipping her hand into mine. A quiet understanding between us. There was no drama at all. Just the truth out in the open. And that was enough. We walked out of the lounge, the door swinging shut behind us. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. The past was over and I wasn't going back to it. Chelsea didn't let it go. She couldn't. "Are you saying you're glad it happened?" she asked, her voice raw, as if I might still hold some lingering affection for her. She was shaking now, her words falling apart as she tried to make sense of this moment that had clearly broken her. She probably thought I'd give her some piece of me, some little crumb of reassurance. I looked at her, my gaze steady, and shook my head. "No," I said, my voice quieter now but firm. "I'm not glad it happened. But I built something better after you burned the first life down." The words didn't come with any bitterness. No anger. Just truth. The life I had now was worth everything I'd gone through to get it. And that was more than I could say for the mess she left behind. She had her reasons, sure, but those didn't matter to me anymore. Megan stood up beside me. She didn't need to say much. She never did. She just spoke with a calm authority that made it clear. This was over. For good. "You will not contact Neil again. Ever," Megan said. Her voice wasn't loud, but it had that quiet, final edge to it. She wasn't giving Chelsea any room for more drama. No more calls, no more texts, no more nothing. Chelsea nodded, her face crumpling as the tears finally broke free. She didn't argue. She didn't try to explain anymore. She just cried, the sound soft but desperate. And for a moment, I almost felt bad for her. Almost. But then the clarity hit me, and I remembered why this conversation had to happen in the first place. I took Megan's hand, not looking back at Chelsea as we walked out. The car ride home was quiet. Not the kind of awkward quiet you get when you don't know what to say, but the kind where everything that needed to be said already had been. We didn't need words. Megan kept her hand in mine, her fingers warm against my skin, a steady presence. And for the first time in years, the past didn't feel like it was trying to swallow me whole. When we got back to the apartment, Megan poured us both a drink. I sank into the couch, letting the weight of the evening settle on my shoulders. "You good?" she asked, handing me the glass, her voice soft, like she was waiting for me to figure out what I was feeling. I took a sip, the whiskey sharp on my tongue, and leaned back, letting the warmth of it spread through me. "Lighter," I said, the word coming out easier than I expected. I didn't know I needed that, but yeah, lighter. Megan nodded and settled beside me, her body close enough that I could feel the comfort of her just being there. We didn't talk much after that, but I didn't need to. The silence felt right. It was the kind of quiet that spoke volumes. A space where everything was said without saying a word. Later that night, when I finally lay down to sleep, I did so without the weight of the past on my chest. No dreams of betrayal. No more shadows from the life I'd left behind. It was like I was finally free of it all. Free to just be who I was now with Megan, with the future we'd built. And it was enough. 2 days later, my phone rang as I was getting ready to head into the office. I saw my dad's name on the screen. I hadn't heard from him in 6 years. Not since the night everything fell apart with Chelsea and Marcus. We hadn't had a real conversation since then, and I didn't expect this one to be any different. But I picked up anyway. "Neil," he said, his voice a little rough, like he wasn't sure how to start. "Marcus wants to talk to you. He's asking if you can meet before the wedding." I rubbed the back of my neck, letting out a slow breath. Of course, Marcus wanted to talk now. After everything, after 6 years of silence, now he was ready to speak. "What, now he wants peace?" I asked the question flat, no attempt at hiding my sarcasm. My dad went quiet for a second, like he didn't know how to answer that. Then, with a sigh, he said, "You know, Neil, Marcus is still your brother. He made a mistake. He wants to make things right." I could feel my patience starting to fray. "He was my brother," I said, each word sharp, like I was cutting through the lie. "Then he chose to be something else." There was a long pause on the other end. I knew my dad was trying to process that, trying to figure out how to fix this. But I didn't need him to fix it. I wasn't looking for an excuse for Marcus. I wasn't interested in the family reconciliation story they were all probably trying to sell themselves. I cut him off before he could say anything else. "And by the way, he's not invited to the wedding," I added, the words coming out without hesitation, final. I didn't care if it caused a scene. It was my day, my life. "Neil, come on." My dad started, but I was done. "You picked him," I said, cutting through the rest of his sentence. "That's the family you get now. Don't ask me to pretend it didn't happen." I could feel the anger rising in my chest, but I kept it controlled. He wasn't going to manipulate me into giving in. Not this time. Not after everything. I didn't wait for his reply. I hung up before he could argue any more. Megan, who had been sitting on the couch with me while I was talking, didn't say a word. She didn't need to. She knew exactly how that conversation went, and she knew where I stood. She nodded, her expression calm but resolute. No ties left, just clean edges. Her voice was steady, like she was grounding me in what I already knew. This was it. No more trying to make the past fit into the present. I sat there for a minute, the weight of it all sinking in. There was no going back. No family reunion. No healing of old wounds. Just moving forward. I had a life with Megan now, a future with her. The people who weren't part of that were gone, and I wasn't looking back. Megan squeezed my hand. "You're doing the right thing," she said, her voice gentle but sure. "I know," I told her, but even saying it out loud felt like a weight lifting off me. The call from Raj came right in the middle of a busy afternoon at the office. I was finishing up a meeting with a client when my phone buzzed, and I saw his name on the screen. I answered without hesitation, expecting it to be about something routine. "Neil." Raj's voice was furious. No preamble, just straight into it. "Chelsea showed up here." I stopped what I was doing. "What?" "She's in the lobby. Tried playing the concerned ex card. Saying you weren't emotionally ready to get married, that you're rushing into things and need to heal." His words were clipped, clearly pissed off. "Said I should talk to you about postponing." I kicked her out. Told her next time, it's gonna be with security. I was silent for a beat, my hands gripping the edge of the desk. Chelsea had the nerve to show up at my office, trying to interfere in my life again. Right before the wedding, it was the last thing I needed. But it wasn't surprising. I knew she'd push. She wasn't gonna back off until someone shut her down. "I'll handle it," I told Raj, my voice low. "Thanks for kicking her out. Just don't let her in again, no matter what." "I've got it," he said, but there was no hiding the irritation in his tone. "Just let me know if you want me to do anything else." I hung up and sat there for a second, running a hand through my hair. Megan didn't need to hear about this. She already had enough on her plate, but I couldn't ignore the feeling that it was all spiraling toward another confrontation. I hated the idea of Chelsea dragging me back into her mess. I looked over at Megan, who was sitting on the other side of the office. She'd been working on some documents, but when I met her eyes, she put the pen down and gave me a questioning look. "She showed up at the office," I said, voice flat, but my frustration was there. "Tried to tell Raj I'm rushing into the wedding, that I need time to heal." Megan didn't even flinch. She just nodded, then got up, walked over to her desk, and started typing. I knew exactly what she was doing. She wasn't going to let this go. That night, she stayed up late working. By the time I got into bed, she was finishing up a letter, the glow of her laptop illuminating her face. She turned the screen toward me. "Done," she said, her voice steady. "Cease and desist. It's firm, legal, and final. She doesn't get to rewrite the ending." I looked at the letter, my chest tightening with relief. Megan wasn't just standing by me. She was handling it. She wasn't letting Chelsea's bullshit control the narrative anymore. "I'm serving it to her first thing in the morning," Megan added, looking at me with a look that was as sharp as it was confident. "This ends now." I took the letter from her, feeling the weight of it in my hands. "Thank you," I said, meaning it more than I could put into words. Megan smiled, not a soft smile, but the kind of smile that made it clear she wasn't just doing this for me. She was doing it for us, for our future. We're not letting her pull any more strings. Not when we've already closed the book. That night, when I finally closed my eyes, there was no tension in my chest. No lingering thoughts about Chelsea trying to mess things up. It was like Megan had put an end to it all with that letter. I felt like I could breathe again. I wasn't going to let the past drag me down. Not with her by my side. And that was the last I heard from Chelsea. Later that night, just as I was winding down, my phone pinged with a new email. It was from Marcus. The subject line made my stomach tighten. "I know it's been a long time, but I need to reach out." I stared at it for a second before opening it. I already knew what it would say. The same kind of self-serving apology I had come to expect from him. And sure enough, there it was. He said he was getting married soon and wanted to clear the air, as if he was entitled to one more chance to explain himself. He claimed he'd changed, that he'd grown, that he finally understood how wrong he was. And then, the kicker, he asked me to show some compassion because Chelsea wasn't doing well. He told me she was struggling and wanted me to somehow feel bad for her, even though she'd burned my life to the ground. I didn't bother reading the whole thing. The same lies, the same manipulations. I skimmed through, my blood pressure rising as I moved through his empty words. When I was done, I forwarded it to Megan. She read it quickly, then looked up at me. "Want me to handle it?" she asked, her voice quiet, steady. I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of everything that had led up to this. "Not yet," I said, my voice calm but firm. "I've got this." I'm not giving him the satisfaction of a response. Megan nodded without hesitation. It was clear she understood. "You don't owe him anything," she said, her words like a shield. And she was right. I didn't owe Marcus or Chelsea a damn thing. The past wasn't mine to fix. It was theirs to carry. I stared at the email one more time, the same feeling of indifference washing over me. He wasn't my brother anymore. Not after what he'd done. I wasn't angry. I wasn't hurt. I just didn't care. He'd made his choice and I'd made mine. And mine was with Megan. I didn't respond to the email. I wouldn't. There was nothing left to say. And even if there was, it didn't matter. Marcus had no place in my life anymore. Megan squeezed my hand. "It's over," she said softly, like she was grounding me in the truth of it. And for the first time in years, I finally felt that way. Over. Done. I deleted the email. I wouldn't look back. Not now. Not ever. The night before the wedding, Megan and I decided to take a walk through the venue. It was quiet, tucked behind a vineyard, the air cool but not too chilly, just the kind of night where everything felt like it was holding its breath. The place had been set up earlier that day. Chairs lined up in neat rows, white fabric draping the arch, and the faint glow of string lights flickering against the dusky sky. The kind of simple elegance I never thought I'd get to experience. We'd already locked down the guest list, and security had been briefed. No one unwanted was getting in. Not my family. Not Chelsea or Marcus. Not anyone who might try to ruin this. It was just us now. Just me and Megan. Megan squeezed my hand as we strolled past the rows of chairs, the gravel crunching beneath our shoes. She glanced at me, a question in her eyes. You think they'll try something? I didn't even have to think about it. Maybe, I said, my voice steady. But it doesn't matter. They're not part of this. She nodded like she knew that already, like we were already in the world we'd created, the one we were building. The one that had nothing to do with the mess of my past. We stopped by a stone wall just outside the venue, and Megan sat down first, the soft light from the overhead strings casting shadows across her face. I sat beside her, feeling the smooth coolness of the stone under my palms. We didn't need to say much, but we both knew what was coming. She picked up a piece of gravel and rolled it between her fingers. You ready? She asked, looking up at me, her voice soft but steady. I thought about the months of planning, the ups and downs, the unexpected moments. But the only thing that mattered was that we were here, standing together. I'm not nervous, I said, the words coming out clearer than I expected. I'm ready. This is right. She smiled at me, the kind of smile that could melt the hardest edges of any day. Then let's get married. For real this time. And in that moment, I realized it was already real. This wasn't just a ceremony or a celebration. It was us, finally, fully stepping into our future. No ghosts, no past to drag us down. Just two people holding on to each other, ready to face everything that was coming. We sat there for a while, not talking, just being. It felt like the world was quiet for us, letting us have this peace before everything got moving tomorrow. It was exactly what I needed, and I was more than ready to make this promise to her. The morning of the wedding, I woke up early, my mind still a little foggy from sleep, but as I checked my phone, I saw a message waiting for me from a blocked number. My stomach turned. I almost didn't want to open it, but something made me do it anyway. It was short, just 2 words. I'm sorry, Neil. I didn't read more. I didn't need to. I deleted it immediately, not even giving it the satisfaction of a response. Chelsea was trying again. She always would. But I wasn't that person anymore. I wasn't the guy who hung on to every apology, every regret. I was moving on, and that text had no place in my life. The day was everything I dreamed of 6 years ago and more. It wasn't grand or flashy, just exactly what I needed. Simple, honest, grounded. Megan had the kind of grace that made everything feel like it was falling into place the way it was meant to. The ceremony was perfect. Our vows were simple, but they meant everything. And when we exchanged rings, I didn't just see the metal. I saw the future. Raj, my business partner, gave a short but powerful speech about how I'd risen from the worst kind of wreckage, about how he'd watched me go through it and come out the other side stronger. There was no pretension, no fluff, just truth. Megan's sister cried, and I almost did too. The emotion of it all hit me in ways I didn't expect. I never thought I'd get here, but here I was, alive, whole, loved. Then came our first dance. It wasn't perfect, but it was ours. We moved slowly, the music wrapping around us like a soft blanket, and I held Megan close, breathing her in. She whispered in my ear, her voice light but meaningful, "No regrets." I looked down at her, feeling something in my chest loosen. "None," I said, and I meant it. Not a single regret. Every moment, every choice that had led me here, it had all been worth it. After the dance, the party moved into full swing, but Megan and I slipped out to the patio for a little quiet. It was just the two of us now, away from the noise, away from the past. The night air was cool, and the soft glow of the lights from the reception hall flickered behind us. We didn't need anything more. The future was here. It was real, and I wasn't looking back anymore. We didn't talk much, just sat there together, letting the moment stretch out. It was perfect in its simplicity, and I couldn't imagine a life better than this. Megan was the only family I needed now. Past done, future here, and it was enough. We came back from our short honeymoon a couple of days ago, and the apartment was a mess. Megan was already curled up on the couch, asleep with her shoes still on. She was snoring lightly, the kind of peaceful sound that made me smile. Papers were scattered across the coffee table, wedding stuff, work stuff, random bills, but it didn't matter. I was unpacking the suitcase, folding clothes with a kind of calm I hadn't known before. I looked over at her hair a little wild, her face relaxed in sleep, and I knew, without a doubt, I married the right woman. There were no more calls from Chelsea, no texts from Marcus. The silence felt final. I'd heard through a friend that Marcus's wedding didn't happen. His fiancée found out about the past, and that was the end of that. As for my dad, he'd sent a bland card with a note that felt more like an obligation than anything genuine. I tossed it in the trash without even reading it. Chelsea was working retail now, supposedly back in her hometown. I didn't care to check if that was true. I didn't hate them, not really. I didn't wish them any harm. But I didn't think about them anymore. I had no reason to. I rebuilt myself. Not out of revenge, not to prove anything to anyone. I rebuilt because I had to. I couldn't stay stuck in the wreckage of that life. It wasn't about forgiveness. Megan never asked for that. She just asked me to live forward, to look ahead. And I was finally doing it. There were no ghosts left. No old wounds to reopen. Nothing unfinished. It was just us now, and it was enough. I set the last of the clothes in the drawer and walked over to the couch. Megan shifted in her sleep, but didn't wake up. I knelt beside her for a second, just watching her breathe. This life we were building together finally feeling real. No regrets, just forward, just us. And that was enough.